little too squatty with the pelvis, a little too far back, a little too much knee bend in my opinion. And you can see when he has the top end of the pelvis sticking up too much, what happens is you'll get that kind of S curve in the lower back, which can create issues, both physically, but also in your ability to rotate. Now, from there, what he does is, this is where the chain of issues begins. Right away, early in the takeaway, you'll see that from where his hands start to where they go early on, the lead arm disconnects, so the hand path pushes out and away from the player. But then from here, when you combine that with a lot of forearm rotation, the shaft just goes back way too flat. So the problem is, of course, people will tend to hyperanalyze the face being open, but that's just a byproduct of the forearm rotation. If you clean that up, the face doesn't look nearly as open anymore in the takeaway. But really, the biggest concern to me is when you have the shaft going back way too flat with the lead arm disconnecting, as this club is going up, you're going to have to find a way to get this club up in the air at some point. And when the shaft is so horizontal for so long, so the butt end of the club pointing way outside the golf ball, as opposed to not only having the lead arm be a little bit more in, but the shaft a little bit more vertical at this point, which would be preferable. From this position where the hands are way out in front of the body and the shaft is too flat, you're going to see a lot of compensations being made late in the backswing. So you'll see that chain reaction happen right around this area where the forearms are going to now start to react in an effort to get the club up in the air. So not just have it be so laid off. And so as this club continues to go up and up and up, you're going to see a big change of direction here at the top. Naturally, there's going to be a lot of momentum being built from the forearms changing direction, especially with how flat the club was. And so you'll see as this club sits at the top, it doesn't actually stop in a position that looks pretty ideal. It keeps going. So by the time this player actually finishes setting the club at the top of the backswing, the shaft gets super across the line. Obviously, this position is being created because of how flat or how shallow the club was. And then that change of momentum, or a change of direction rather, with the momentum just sets it way across the line. And you'll see because the hand path was so out and in front of him early, he has to really try to compensate for that and get them really deep later on, which he eventually does. But the problem is now that right arm just gets sucked way behind the body when he does this. So right arm gets caught too far behind him, club gets too across the line. From here, when he's coming down, a bad player will likely just come down really steep with this club. A better player, which is actually what he is going to find a way to shallow this club really late in the swing through a lot of compensations. And so this club gets stuck way under the plane. And obviously that compensation that I'm referring to that he reacts to is just a lot of extension of the spine. So look at where his head is placed. Look at where the spine is. If this club was already in a shallow spot, he can just rotate really well on it. But because it's coming from such an across position with the right arm stuck so far behind the body, again, you can kind of see that there. When he's coming down, he's going to have to find a way to shallow this club out. And he does it with a lot of extension of the spine. So head backs up, spine straightens out a lot. And then obviously from here, because he's standing so much, he has to flip his hands at the bottom, not to just hit a huge block. So when you're looking at it, you can almost take a back to front approach. He's got a lot of early extension with a lot of flippiness at the bottom. This exists because he has to find a way to shallow the club. And obviously the club gets caught way under the plane when he does it. But he has to shallow the club because he's so across the line with the right arm caught behind his body. And then the top of the backswing here looks the way it does because of the takeaway where he was so disconnected with the forearms rotating and the shaft going back too flat. So really, a lot of his problems, the domino effect of them, begin really with the takeaway right here.